it is the difference between putting the character on and pulling the character out.
When you have a director, an actor's director, right? That can say, yeah, what you're doing is fine, but you can go deeper here. They can talk to you about acting in a way that just makes you better, that brings things out of you that you didn't know was there.
Because you want to grow, ultimately.
Sure.
I mean,
sure.
as an artist, I want to push things
Yes.
and explore stuff.
Yeah.
And let's try this.
Yes, that's
about
right.
if we do this instead of that or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's hard to find.
We have 3 names. We are 3 name people.
Yeah, we are. yeah.
I am Aunjanue Ellis-Taylor.
It is a great pleasure to be sat here talking with you again.
Yes, yes.
I'm Marianne Jean-Baptiste.
Hello, Marianne Jean-Baptiste.
Hello. People don't get that right with me, though. It's really funny. Yeah, they want to say Marianne Jean. I've been called all sorts of things. It's quite funny.
Can you imagine? Aunjanue, yeah. Yeah, I get it. I get it. Oh, God, do I get it.
And people try and make it sound fancy. Aunjanue.
Not where I'm from.
Okay.
It gets butchered. But can you tell me a little bit about your name? Are you French at all? Are you French Caribbean?
Yes, French Caribbean. My dad was from St. Lucia. I was half St. Lucian, half French. And my mother's Antiguan. So that is the combination.
I see.
And I was born and raised in London. Yeah. But you now, Aunjanue.
Okay.
How did we get the name Aunjanue?
Well, the origin is really just my mother's mind, you know what I mean? I was born in San Francisco.
Okay.
And she was a, hippie bohemian, and she had a bunch of hippie bohemian friends. And the story is, which is not very interesting, is there was a magazine or something, and they saw that name, and her friends were like, we like that name. And they,
Yeah.
why don't you give it to your child? Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it's fitting, actually. There's something, it's like, it suits you.
You think so?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's INGENUE, but I am no longer that. But yeah, I think that I certainly was a bit of a weird, strange child. So I guess it was fitting that I had a weird, strange name.
Yeah, how so were you weird and strange?
I don't know. I mean, there was a room in my grandmother's house, and I kind of encamped in that room. And, I was a big reader, and I would just go in that room. And really it was, the writer Susan Sontag, she talks about how books are spaceships. And for me, that room was a spaceship for me.
Right.
It was our guest room. And the wallpaper was mauve, and it had flowers and birds on it. And I would just go in that room and I would just read. My grandmother had a rocking chair that looked out onto this field that we had, because I was raised on a farm. And, I found myself in that place.
Right.
You know what I mean? There was something that was speaking to me that I didn't see.
Right.
That I had to create.
Right.
I didn't know what that would mean, but yeah.
So do you think that's where your leanings towards creativity and artistry came from?
I think so. Yeah. It wasn't acting, but I knew it was something like that. My grandfather was a pastor of a church, and he had a study, and he had all of these books in it, atlases and theological books and novels and stuff. And so it sort of began that journey a little bit. Yeah. So what about you? When did you know that you were a creative person?
Do you know what? I don't know exactly.
Yeah.
My dad always told stories. He'd tell stories about when he was a kid, and so it was a big storytelling thing in the house.
Yeah.
And like yourself, I loved to read and just escape into books.
Do you remember the first book you read?
Oh my gosh!
Not children's book, but like, you know, grown-up book.
Oh my gosh, that's a tough one, man. I think I do remember the children's book. That's quite funny. It was a necklace of raindrops.
Oh.
And it was about this necklace, and at first there was like one raindrop on it, and then this girl collected raindrops, and it became this magical thing. And I was like, I'm gonna get one. And I said, I'm gonna get a necklace of raindrops. Bloody hell, I'm really trying to think about the adult book. As a grown-up.
Well, which one do you remember? Whether it was the first one, one or
Probably
not?
Song of Solomon.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, that was
girl.
like an explosion going off in my head.
Yeah.
It was just. I mean, I love Toni Morrison. It's just,
Come on, here we go.
You
friends.
can't listen. This is what a mind.
That's right.
Yeah, but it's also her whole thing about. I weren't seeing the books that I wanted to read, so I wrote them. That just stays with you. Do you know what I mean? And I think that is a starting point for a lot of people, a lot of artists who are just trying to create something that they yearn for.
Yeah.
But I think I used to write stories when I was a kid. I loved making stories up. So I think I kind of knew at some point when I was a child that if I could just keep on making things and creating things, I would be happy, whether it was drawing or making little clothes for my dolls or what have you.
Yeah.
Yeah, a friend of mine has a ticket. She grew up in Cyprus, and her mother sewed a little note in her coat with the address and stuff where she was going to. And she had a ticket to go on a coach or something at some point.
Yeah.
And she still has it.
Yeah.
And since from the time she was about 8 years old.
Ooh.
And it's things like that I kind of go, oh my gosh, I'm too busy doing it to kind of think I better keep on it, you know. But I kind of wish that I had little trinkets.
Yeah. You know, I had a friend of mine who was an archivist, right? And she collected papers from just a lot of historical figures, Alice Walker being one of them.
Oh, wow.
You know? And, you know, I think about when, you know, the life of Marianne Jean-Baptiste, right? Like, what will be your papers? Because I would want to go to a library and
some bills. Unpaid.
Right.
Due. Past due.
Past due, right?
Imagine. Oh my God. But
I mean, just
do
because
write
we're
a
on
lot.
practical sense, because we live in such a digital age, like everything is digitized. So but please go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I journal a bit. I used to journal a lot, and I have these old ones, and I keep thinking, shall I throw them out or shall I leave them for my kids to discover, my daughters to kind of find one day and go, oh, she did this. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah. In your own words, if you like.
You have to.
Yeah, I did. One of
to.
them, I had 2 journals. I gave one to my oldest daughter on, I think it was her 18th birthday.
Yeah.
Because it's all about the pregnancy. And I would do these entries about how I was feeling. And
do you do that when you are creating a character?
yes, I actually do. I actually do a lot of background and use my imagination to create their background, using some clues in a script, if there is a script.
Yeah.
I'll go through and I'll kind of go, okay, they must have met like da-da-da-da-da or what have you. Because, you know, very often you turn up on set or you're in the makeup trailer and somebody will come in and say, oh, this is Gustav, he's playing your husband. And you're like, okay, we got to act a 30-year marriage.
Yeah.
And, you know, having known each other for 20 minutes.
That's right.
So I would have gone away and sort of done stuff and said, well, they met like this and this would happen. And blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, I do. I employ that technique to just sort of talk it into existence, you know?
Mm-hmm. And did you do that with Hard Truths?
No, I didn't do it with Hard Truths, actually, because the whole process of Hard Truths kind of takes care of that. You don't have to go away and create something. You're actually creating the film within the process of creating the characters and the circumstance and all that sort of stuff. So I didn't really have to do it. It's in a conventional filmmaking that I need to do it in order to ground it in some kind of reality.
Yeah. What I think is your collaboration with Mike Lee is, to me, just like one of the most significant collaborations, I think, really in contemporary cinema, you know, and what I want to know is how it started.
Oh, gosh. It started quite, you know, I auditioned for him back in 19 Chocolate, you know, long time ago. She's a long, long, long time ago. And I think it was for Naked, actually, a film that he did.
Okay.
And it didn't work out. And he sent me a note saying, you know, it didn't work out for this movie, but I would really like to work with you in the future. And I was like, yeah, right. But it was handwritten and beautiful. So I was just like, okay. And then I get this offer. I'm going to do a play. I don't know what you're going to be doing in it. I don't know what the play's about, but we're going to have a great time. And I was like, wow, yeah, I'd love to do that. So that's how we started working together. And, you know, that's where I learnt the process. It was probably in about 93. I'd left drama school in 1990. So you're still sponge-like. You're still, like, really eager to learn and grow. And, I mean, I still am like that now, eager to learn and grow. But, you know, you're just prime for taking on something quite new. And, yeah, I just fell in love with that process because it's so imaginative and creative. And you use so much of yourself and your talent. It's like a full-body experience. You know, so that was it for me. But for you now, with the Nickel Boys, what happened? How did it come to you? Or did you go after it? Or what, you know, was it the director that you had sort of reached out to, or vice versa?
We're probably kindred in the sense that, you know, because we both love language so much, right? You know, I feel that I know that from our first conversation that we had. But also, Morrison is, you know, she's a visual writer, right? You know, she talks about how the first sentence in her novels are the most important, you know, and you see the world immediately almost in the first few words of what she writes. So visual language is so important to me, not just reading it, but seeing it, you know? And so I saw Hale County this evening, and that was RaMell's documentary film. And when I saw it, I was in Brooklyn and I was at BAM with my friend Ty. And I just remember the sensations of how I felt watching it. I don't know if it was popcorn, but I do know, I remember my body in the seat. I remember that I was like maybe 3 rows back or something like that because we waited too late to buy the tickets, you know. I remember her being next to me, to my right probably. And the reason why I'm able to recount all of this is because I think we remember things that that are so traumatic. So we remember every, you know, every frame of the lens of all of that experience, or it's something that we don't want to forget.
Right.
And that's what that experience of seeing Hale County was for me. Like, I don't want to forget this. So after seeing it, I was stunned by it, and stunned because he visualized something that wasn't just pictures on a screen. You know what I mean? It was sound, image, atmosphere, a point of view, a cry, a roar, you know, and all of those things that I feel being a Black woman from the South. You know, I felt a witness to it. I didn't necessarily feel that this person was speaking, you know, for me, but I felt like he was, you know, my witness, you know, my amen. Like, yeah, I see you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And usually when I see depictions or portrayals of Black Southern rural life, I don't feel that way at all. I feel very removed from it.
Right.
But this was different. It was different.
It's interesting because I think that's the effect that you have when people watch your work. I can speak for myself in saying that I see you in roles and I know who you are, or I know who that woman is. There's something that puts you at ease, that makes you say what you're looking at is what you are looking at. That is the real thing. It's not, as my mother would say, a puppy show, which is like a puppet show. It's not sort of like performative. It is the thing. So it's interesting that is what attracted you to that work. But I think it's the same thing that there's a truth, an authenticity to the work that makes people go, okay, now I'm getting it. Oh, you relax, you know what I mean? Certainly so when you play the grandmother in, I think it is the grandmother, right? I'm getting it right. Yeah, it's his grandmother in the piece that you, I can't explain it. I think you explained it best when you were talking about his work, but it's just every emotion, every gesture is real. It just is. It's just real. It almost becomes beyond acting in a sense, although it is acting.
Sure.
It's not taking anything away because there is talent and skill that goes along with it. And I think sometimes people can take away from that when they say, oh, she just is. Because there's work that's gone into it. We just don't see the work. Yeah. Sorry to cut in, but it was just when you were describing it, I was thinking, but that's how when I see your work, that's how I see it. That's how I experience it.
Can I ask you a kind of a crazy question, though? What is real to you? And I think that's one question. And then the other question is that something you fight for when you're working? Because not everybody is interested in that.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, and it doesn't mean that they are failing necessarily in what they're doing. That they're not. They embrace something that is performative. So that's a side. But does that make sense? I want to know what real is, and then talk to me about that.
For me, real is rooted in some kind of reality. There's an emotional connection that goes on with it. It is the difference between putting the character on and pulling the character out. Right? So we could be witches on a spacecraft, right?
Right, yeah.
But we will believe, we will be going to like, okay, so this witch, how old is she? 40,000 years of age. What does that do to you?
Right.
How does that affect your body?
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And do all that work to make those witches as real or rooted in reality as possible.
Yeah.
You know, not just put on a nose and some warts and shit,
right.
but
That's
but
right.
really kind of like find it from in here and pull it out.
Right.
So it is something that I strive for. I kind of get a bit impatient when there isn't the room for that. You know, I get a bit sort of like, oh, come on, you know. But you find a way to deal with it. Sometimes it's you're almost in a bubble of your own, you know, working in a way that, you know, you can't control the way other people work or how they choose to see stuff. So sometimes you kind of just have to go, I've made this little world within this world where I can sort of be authentic to who this person is, you know.
And so how did that play out for you in Hard Truths?
Well, fortunately, I was in an environment that supported that, because he's not interested in anything else. He's not interested in anything that's performative or, you know, anything that isn't real. He really is trying to create characters that people recognize from life. So you've got a whole production that supports that. You're working in collaboration with the costume person. So you sit down after you've created the character, you sit down for about an hour and a half with costume, and you say, okay, she should wear these colors, these are the type of shapes, she won't wear that, she'd wear that. You they don't come in with a load of pictures of somebody that, you know, that they've pulled out of Elle magazine or whatever. They take from you. We had a really funny exchange in that the costume designer, we fitted this jacket that Pansy wears, and she goes, oh, it's a bit tight, I'm gonna get the next size up. And I was like, no, she would not. She'd squeeze herself into it thinking she's the same size. And she was like, right, yeah. Now, I mean, quite rightly, a lot of costume designers might go, no, but it's going to look like I've put you in that. And you don't, you know, but in that type of environment, they're just sort of like on board. That's authentic. That's what that woman would do.
Yeah.
You know?
I heard this comedian say, and I didn't like it because she was a white woman who said it.
Okay.
She said, for a black woman thinks that if you can put it on, it fits.
Oh, gosh. That's Pansy.
That's Pansy.
That's Pansy. That's Pansy.
Oh, my God. Okay. All right.
I was going to ask you about the script. When you received the script for Nickel Boys, how clear was it that you were actually going to be acting with the camera for the first section of that, and how did you feel about it?
When was the last time you had family to come visit you?
Well, you know,
I came all this way, and I can't hug Elwood, so I guess you'll have to do. What are they feeding y'all? You can't muss up a bigger hug than that. I'm gonna remember that next time. Turn.
So I didn't know, and this is a little bit of a point of contention between me and my illustrious director.
Lovely.
And it's not his fault that I didn't know. I just, when I read it, I didn't get that part.
Okay.
I didn't get it. And so I didn't realize that we were going to do that until I came to work the first day. Wow. Yeah. And I'm so glad I didn't know. You know what I mean? Because I don't think you would have had that reaction to what you saw in it if I had known. Because I would have been, you know, how does one
Yeah.
work for, and have an intimate experience with the camera. You know what I mean? I know me, and I know that I would have, tried to do that. But I didn't have time to do that. I didn't have time to work up some sort of aesthetic or approach. I just had to do it, because when you have money, and as you know,
Yeah.
you just gotta, figure it out on the spot. But I had so much trust in RaMell because of what I felt about Hale County. I didn't care. I knew that whatever he was doing, I could trust him.
Right.
I knew that. I knew it implicitly, and I was ready for it. I was primed for it. I couldn't wait for it, So I had no skepticism. I had no questions. I was just like, okay, well, tell me where to go and tell me what to do.
It's a lovely feeling to be able to trust a director like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because as you know, much of the time, there is an element of self-direction that has to take place because of the time allotted to working on projects,
Sure.
productions, i.e. there's no rehearsal time, for example.
We had none. Right.
So you just have to kind of like make sure you're solid. But the scene that I just keep going over and seeing in my head is the scene where your character goes to visit her grandson and can't get him to visit him and has to give this package or big letter to another of the boys there. Yeah.
Would you please? Would you please?
Yes, ma'am.
I came all this way. It's a crime if they won't let me see him. It's a crime. What kind of place is this? They won't let me see him.
Can you just talk about that scene? Because there's so many emotions going on. There's the hope, there's the disappointment, there's sort of like still mothering to this stranger, this young boy. And it's heartbreaking because we as the audience know what's happening in there. And we kind of just want to go, just keep going, just ask.
Right? Yeah.
Just
Yeah. Storm the doors.
Yes.
Yeah. That day was weird. It was strange. The whole thing was weird and the whole thing was strange, but in the good sense, weird and strange in the good way. But that day particularly, I really, really struggled because I knew that what RaMell wanted to see, that I wasn't giving it.
Right.
I wasn't giving it. And I felt very distracted, a lot of what you see on camera is just what's there. It's not a product of it's not designed, when we're outside particularly. It's just what you see, what you get. So if there's a lawnmower that's loud, the lawnmower's loud,
Right.
If it is really, I guess it's naturalism in that sense that you are, you have to surrender and collapse into your natural environment, and I just was feeling affected by everything. Everything was I was so porous. Everything was coming into me and very little was coming out of me, and I was really insecure, I really, really insecure, really felt like tossed. And I did that scene. We did several takes of it before RaMell was like, okay, I think we got it. Because I thought I was communicating. I thought I was connecting. But how do you know when you can't see the person?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I saw, Brandon Wilson's beautiful eyes. I tried to look behind the camera, to try to see him. I'd touch him just to have some sort of haptic thing, But that's all I had.
Yeah.
That's all I had. And, I think what is effective about my feeling that way is that it aligns with what she was feeling.
Yeah.
You know, just alone and separated and removed and just this forced solitude.
Yeah.
You know?
And the lack of connection.
Yeah.
Not being able to touch and hold and...
But see, that's interesting. It's interesting. It's interesting. Let me tell you why it's interesting. Because, you know, Hattie was longing for touch, but Pansy was like, don't touch me.
Yeah. You can't go in or out of a supermarket without being harassed by those grinning, cheerful charity workers begging you for money for their stupid causes. Why they got to skin their teeth like that? Cheerful, grinning people. Can't stand them. Loitering out there, demanding your hard-earned cash. It's a scam. They're scamming people. Can't trust them. They want your phone number, your email. I asked one of them, I said, why do you want my postcode? I might as well just give you my front door key so you can bruck into my house, teeth out my things, and kill my only child. She was just like, because I think that Pansy knew she would break, you know, if anyone touched her. I think anyone she held dear.
Yeah.
You know, she like her sister. When her sister hugs her, it's like her whole thing just like caves in.
Oof.
Yeah, but that was very hard because I'm all over them, like off camera. I'm just squeezing.
Yeah.
The young actor Twain Barrett that plays Moses. I mean, I would squeeze that.
Yes. Yeah.
I would squeeze him constantly, kiss him.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
So close, and then having to just stay there, you know.
How'd you do it?
Things we do.
I know. That go against our just absolutely go against
that
who
just
we
go
are.
against it, go against, because there's a part of you know, you have to endow them with who the character is. Like you had to endow the camera with that young man. Do you know what I mean? Brandon, because that's all you could do. And it's like this boy suddenly becomes, when we're working and we're in character, he suddenly becomes this sort of bane to her, this disappointment, you know, this failure. Yeah.
When you, this idea of touch, you know, I'm, you know, for these two women, when you, I told you this before the first time that we talked, but just how you dealt with those flowers, girl.
Not touching them.
Just. I told you it was like you were dealing with a snake. Like that's what it
Right.
felt like to me. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, she had a dislike and fear of flowers and the insects that might be, you know, it's the imagination of inside these petals are hidden insects and germs and harmful things. And, you know, that were going to hurt her. So but the decision to actually engage with them comes from the fact that they come from her son, which is something that she would never have done before the whole thing that happens at the Mother's Day lunch. So it was just her trying to find a way to do it without having to touch them. And think about that. And think about fear and phobias as well, and how irrational they are. But I mean, I have a phobia of snakes. I mean, I can't even look at them in pictures and stuff, much less if I had to unwrap one. you know. I think I'd just pass out and be like, okay, I'm not here, so I don't have to deal.
But you can't come to Mississippi in the summertime. You can't come hang out with me, girl.
But listen, I've been to Natchez in Mississippi.
You have?
Yes, I have.
Oh my God.
I loved it.
You did?
I've really had a good time. I have really had a good time. I was a bit nervous at first, thinking, man, this is Natchez. I've read about Natchez.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But people were really nice, friendly, warm, honest, and upfront about their history and such. And I was like, wow. Okay, I need to do some exploring off my own back.
Yeah, it's complicated.
Yeah, it is complicated.
Very complicated.
Complicated, but flowers, yeah. Dealing with it. So I just had to just imagine like something that you are petrified of, and then how you're going to deal with it. And I mean, we shot it like from beginning to end. Like, we're going to have to do this. Like, it took forever for her to actually get them in the vase. And then we talked about it, and he said, okay, let's cut out this step, just so we still have it in Aunjanue, but it's just, you know, simpler, if you like.
I love that it was shot in Aunjanue. I love that, because I got to see the fullness of you.
Of that fear.
Yeah, it stays with me. Yeah, yeah. And then when you go to the window, to the door, and you're kind of. Yeah. Is she a little bit agoraphobic? Like,
Yeah.
Okay.
And has to, and is forced to go out in the world, has been forced to go out in the world since she was a kid, you know, and has just found a way to deal with it.
Yeah.
If I'm going to go out and be scared, then I'm going to, before I get attacked, I'll attack.
Yeah.
You know?
I asked you before, I said, do you think that if everything was okay, like if Moses got a job and girlfriend and, husband got, started cooking his own dinner.
Yeah.
When he came up in there and was like, are you going to cook dinner?
Oh
My God.
Yeah, you just want to kill him.
him.
At the time, I actually...
Kill him. I was like, read the room, first of all. But
how
go ahead.
she didn't jump out of that bed, drop kick him out of the bedroom window, I don't know. I must have been in there somewhere going, no, Pansy, you can't do that. But it was just that. But I think that happens in marriages as well, though. I think people recognise that, you're not being listened to, because I just told you I don't feel well. I've da-da-da-da-da, blah, blah, blah. So are you going to cook it? Like, man. Yeah. It's a moment.
It's a man. It's what it is.
Well, I didn't want to say that.
It is a man. So can you talk about the origin of Hard Truths? Like, what did it come out of?
Hard Truths came out of months of rehearsals and improvisation. When you sign on, as I said, with his play, he does the same thing for films. How he gets money to make them, I think, is on reputation and on the films that he's produced in the past.
Yeah.
Because he says quite clearly, I don't know what the film's about. There probably won't be anybody in it that you'll recognise. Do you know what I mean? As saying a star name or something that can greenlight a movie.
Yeah.
And I don't want you to interfere in any way, but can I please have some money to do the film?
Right.
And he gets
nerve.
it. The
And
nerve.
he gets it.
And he gets it. But he
love
makes
that.
the most incredible pieces of work. So you go along with him for the first day of rehearsal, and he says, bring a list of people you know. They can't be related to you. And they could be people it could be that guy that you see, that in the case of a woman, it could be that woman that you see in the coffee shop every day that's kind of a bit strange, or maybe a bit quirky, or maybe not, maybe a bit boring looking.
Yeah, yeah.
But just somebody you can talk about for a while. So you take that list into rehearsals and you sit with him, and just the two of you, one-on-one, and you go through the list. You talk and talk and talk and talk about all these characters. And then he starts to making the list smaller and smaller, crossing names off, until you end up with anything from 3 to 5 characters on that list. And then you do an exercise whereby you merge those 5 people together into one. And it's you talk about it, but you also move. So you have to feel it in your body. You have to feel those people, you know, at each step of the way. Okay, now I'm this one. Okay, now I'm that one. Now I'm that one. And you just keep doing it until it's like, okay, they're all combined. And then he says, right, we're going to start from scratch. This is the basis of the character. What's her first memory? So then you start building layer by layer, year by year by year by year. And he does this with all of the actors, all in isolation from one another, until one day he'll say, okay, you'll go into the rehearsal room and there'll be another actor, and they go, okay, you're going to play sisters. You're 3 years older than her, so we're going to go back to when you were 3. What was it like when she came home from the hospital? So then you start building a history together, you know, with all the detail, what school you went to, you know, where the grandparents lived. You do this whole family tree, aunts, uncles, cousins. This is before any kind of improvisation can take place. If you've got a job, you go off and you do research, you know. Michelle Austin, who plays Chantal Pansy's sister, went and worked in hairdressing salons so she could learn how to do hair, etc. Just so when she's improvising, doing the work, she knows what she's doing.
Yeah, right.
So this is how it comes into existence, this story, and you just build the family from there, all their traditions, you know, all the boring stuff. Who gets up first? Does he ever make tea for her, or does she always have to make tea?
Yeah.
You know, what time does the sun come downstairs? So that is it. I mean, it's so complicated and detailed that it would we'd have to have another chat.
Yeah.
Maybe we should do that.
God, I'm sitting here and I'm just so fucking jealous. I'm sorry. I'm just like, oh my God, this sounds fun.
Yeah,
it sounds so fun.
Because you're using your imagination. What's your uncle's name? Keith.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Describe Keith, and you go, oh, he's got a bit of a belly. He's about 5'11", but he says he's 6'2". He's one of those characters.
Yeah.
So it's like you're constant. And these rapid fire questions, and you're having to memorize it all. So the goal is, when you get into an improvisation and you start having a discussion, they go, yeah, remember that party? What party? You know the party at Aunt Mabel's house.
Yeah.
Oh, not at that party again. And but you've got stuff. You've got, you know, this rich history that you've created together that you can use.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've got a question for you.
Okay.
Did you watch dailies of the Nickel Boys? Or are you somebody who likes to watch dailies of things?
No. Oh, God, no.
Okay. And so how was it for you when you watched it for the first time? Did you expect what you saw, or what were the surprises, if any?
Yeah, I haven't seen the film. I've seen like the first maybe 45 seconds to a minute of the film. And I haven't seen the rest of it. I still, honestly, Marianne, I still feel a little isolated still, you know what I mean? I still feel that way. You know, it is not my practice to watch, you know, things that I'm in, and it really is not about just me personally. It's because I have such high hopes for the film, for what was attempted, especially if I care. You know, I care about, you know, Nickel Boys, because it is not just a film. It is, you know, we are, you know, entering this moment of accountability for what happened to those children at the Dozier School, and the film is a participant in that. So I wanted to make sure that the job I did lives up to that intention.
Yes.
You know, I want to make sure that the film does that. So if I go see the movie and it doesn't, I get very, very upset about it. I've done the work already. It's nothing I can do. It's done. You know, and I don't want to second guess. I don't want to get in my. I go to not dailies but ADR, and I end up being in bed for days.
Oh,
I can't. I'm like, it just, you know, really. I become undone by that.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And
I totally.
How you feel about
understand.
that?
I don't watch dailies.
Okay.
Unless you're going to tell me I can edit, then there's no point in me watching it because I have no power. I've already done it.
Yeah.
I only watch a film if I have to, which in this case I've had to because I've had to go to premieres and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oddly with it, I do feel like I'm watching somebody else. I don't feel like I'm watching myself at all. Because I look at her and I go, I don't even look like that. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's a really interesting process. Because I did feel like that with Secrets and Lies as well, the first film I did with him. When I saw that film, I was like, God, she sounds different, she looks different. I mean, maybe I'm kidding myself, but that's how it feels. Mm-hmm. But for any of the other stuff that I've done, I don't like watching it. I can't watch it without going, thinking about the choices that could have been made, the things that could have been done. So if I'm either doing this until and hearing my voice as well, it's like, so then I look up when it's over, you know.
Yeah.
Weird. But I do feel like that. I've done the job. Like, you know, I remember somebody going to me, well, aren't you going to go and see this that you were in? And I said, I read it. I know what happens.
That's what I said. Yeah, I was there.
Yeah, I was there. I know what happens.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm at a point right now where I feel like, because not this, but another thing that I mistakenly saw a scene from, and maybe not a mistake, that I hated it. Not the movie, but me. I was just like, what are you doing? You know, like, what are you doing? And so I'm a little bit like, I need to go back to the drawing board, you know, a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of bit.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
And I think that sometimes you can, and I think we are harsh critics of ourselves, do you know what I mean? But we have to hold ourselves accountable, and, you know, we have to sort of measure, because you're not always working with the kind of director that's just going to be there and just sort of like give the right adjustments or what have you.
Yes, Lord. No.
Sometimes it's a situation where they're absolutely lovely, but they're about the shots. They're about something else. And they're like, you're great. I really respect your work. Do your thing. Do what you do. Yeah. Right? And you go, okay, all power to you for that.
Yeah.
But there is sometimes a danger with us that we are too harsh. That other people can watch it and be like, what the hell are you talking about? But for us, it's like, I weren't in, I wasn't plugged in there, or what have you.
Yeah. I think that what piece that I'm referring to, that a brilliant director, but definitely, you know, the goal really is to create the picture.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So there's Aunjanue, there's the cup,
right?
There's the wall, and they all kind of have the same hierarchy in value.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so when it's like that, you know, you're kind of having to, you know, I had to do something, and, you know, I had to write something on a board or something like that, and at the time, I didn't understand what I was writing, right? And so I said to the director, I said, but what does this mean? What does this mean, you know? And then hearing later on this director talk about my doing that scene, you know, they'll say, well, you know, Aunjanue's, she's so deep. She wants to know what the lines mean that she's writing. And I'm like, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Do you know what I mean? So that's what I mean. I could be a cup of water. I could be a wall, or I could be the actor that she needs to create. And I want to be present in a way that takes me beyond the production of an image, you know? And you're right. When you have a director, an actor's director, right? That can say, yeah, what you're doing is fine, but you can go deeper here.
Yeah.
How was Mike with that?
Oh, he'd just snatch you, you know what I mean? Not literally, but just like...
Yeah.
Interesting thing about him is to come out of character when you're in a scene, because there's this whole process of going into character and coming out of character. He's not into the method stuff or whatever, because ultimately the belief being, if you are in character the whole time, how am I going to give you an adjustment or a note? Who am I giving the note to? The character? How's the character going to use the note? Is the character a character that even listens to people? So we have to find a way to go in and come out. Can you imagine giving a note to Pansy? That would have been a nightmare. So you come out of character and he asks you questions. So what was she feeling right then? What was happening for her? Do you think she could pick up that vase? And you either say yes or no. If you say no, he goes, okay. Why couldn't she pick it up? You answer, and then you go, okay, all right. So what about if she does this or does that? You know, what is she feeling? What is she doing? What is, you know, and it'll be that, but he will do it in a way where it comes from you, as opposed to imposing what he wants on it, which is very clever because he gets what he wants, you know. But he's very, I mean, as I said, Michelle studied hairdressing.
Right.
You know, so there's no way she'd be writing anything on a board that she didn't know the meaning of. It would be like, that's eccentric. You need to do some study.
Yeah.
We'll shoot something else and you get yourself, you know.
Yeah. And it's interesting because you can work with a director who's so brilliant, visually driven, and then work with another director who may not be brilliant in that way, at least, not specifically visually driven, but they can talk to you about acting in a way that just makes you better, that brings things out of you that you didn't know, you know, that you didn't know was there. And I think maybe I'm at a point that I can say, okay, that's what I need.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not enough for me just to show up, because sometimes, you know, I'm sure you get this. It's just like they're just happy to have Marianne Jean-Baptiste in the room. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And maybe it is a little bit sort of like, no, I'm still breathing here. I'm still breathing and discovering, and I need somebody to you know, guide me a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Because you want to grow, ultimately.
Sure.
I mean, as an artist, and I do see myself as such.
Yes.
I love to create, but I want to grow. I want to push things and explore stuff and be in a type of environment whereby it's not result-based necessarily.
Yes, that's right.
It's about the process.
That's right.
It's about, let's try this.
Yes, that's
about
right.
if we do this instead of that or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's hard to find, sadly.
I think this is what I'm referring to. I think that what I was, the goal of the film was very result-based.
Right.
And very little process.
Yeah.
Which is what you are describing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's fair to say that we are on a journey of discovery to just grow and to take stuff to the next level, creatively speaking. And my hope is that there is room for that, because sometimes I question it, whether there is space, for it. It's becoming increasingly more difficult for independent film, for example. And although I say that, and although RaMell has come on the scene, and Titus Kaffour has also come and done stuff, and you go, oh well, there's hopefully there is like something happening that can grow, and not just be about a moment. Because we've had a few moments, but it would be lovely to see that sort of grow.
With Titus and RaMell, both of them being established artists in other mediums, and these are being, with Titus exhibiting forgiveness, and with RaMell Nickel Boys being their foray into, narrative filmmaking. I think what I hope and what I want to fight for is, our this world, because I don't necessarily feel like it's mine, but celebrating that, and encouraging that, I feel that Black artists particularly, aren't given that space.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To try.
Yeah.
To fuck with the medium.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In the way that their, white contemporaries are expected to do. You know what I mean? Like when their work is described, it's described as audacious and experimental.
Bold.
You know what I mean? All of that stuff, where it is sort of accepted in, and lauded in their contemporaries. But thank God we have, someone like you, that, one of these directors, can work with, who also, they are discovering things about the medium and are impatient and bored with what we are seeing. And so, want to create and do something else like me, and, we get to see the example of you on film, doing that as an actor. And it's exciting. And I'm just, I live in the age of Marianne Jean-Baptiste.
And
that's pretty bold. It's
Ellis-Taylor.
pretty great. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
sincerely hope that we can one day work together.
I do too.
That would be beautiful.
I do
It would
too.
just be like fun and rich.
Yeah.
So if anyone's out there,
I think it's us. We're out
it is
there.
out there. It is.
We.
It is.
No, we
You're
are
right.
out there.
No, I think I agree with you, because
So
it's
we got to do it.
tell our stories and and explore that. Explore working in a different way, maybe.
Yeah.
And just it has to come from us.
Yeah.
I do think so.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you, Marianne.
Thank you. Such a
Thank
joy.
you.
Such
Thank
a pleasure.
you.
Really.
Thank
really.
you. Can I hug her?
Yeah, we've got to have a love fest.
And also, how about a huge congratulations
Thank you.
on the world scene. You know what I mean? You know
It's
what I
very
mean?
lovely.
Seeing, just what you do.
Bless.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.